Everyone. Welcome to the next class in Indian Polity. We've successfully completed the three parts. Now we've entered into the fourth part, which is state legislature. So we finally finished the central one, which is parliament. So now we're gonna deal with the fourth part. So in that fourth part, now today we're gonna discuss about chief minister and council of like state council of ministers. So that comes under the part four, which is under state government. Now let's get started. First we're going to discuss about the chief minister, who is the head of the state. As we all know that that governor is actually acts as an nominal head. So even in the state legislative scenario, where the governor will actually acts as a nominal executive authority, whereas the chief minister will actually acts as a real executive. So the governor will acts as a nominal executive, and the chief minister will act as a real executive. So not only that, in the sense, like, see, the governor will be the head of the state. So whereas the chief minister will act as head of the government. So that is the only difference it is. The chief minister will act as the head of the government in the state, which is as similar to the prime minister who acts as the head in the center. So that is how, like, the prime minister and chief minister. Now let's talk about the appointment of the chief minister. Well, there has been no, any kind of a special provision or a procedure or a process given in the selection of appointment for the chief minister in our constitution. But whereas, as I've given under Article 164, the CM shall be appointed by the governor. But it actually happens when there is, in two scenarios where I'm gonna tell you that what are the scenarios. Uh, But generally, chief minister will be that person who has the majority or the larger party who won the elections. Or if there is no one, won the elections, or if there is any, draw between the elections, or if there is any, um, not so majority ones, but if whichever the party which has a largest number of collusions of parties, or who has the largest number of seats, then that person, like that party, whoever announces their leader as the CM candidate, so that person will be appointed as chief minister by the governor. So there he has the chance to do that. So once that person was appointed as a chief minister, the governor will ask him to show his confidence, where he needs to display that he can be a chief minister. So there will be a vote of confidence in the house within a month. So in a month he needs to prove his confidence, like he needs to get his vote of confidence from all the house members in the house, so that he can continue as a chief minister later on. But whenever, if there is any death of chief minister was actually happened suddenly in his office term itself, so at the time what happens means a governor can pick anyone, because the chief minister doesn't come with a successor. So he can actually pick one, and he can let that person to show, or to prove his confidence in the house, whether he can be accepted as their chief minister or not, for to be the head of the government. And as I've mentioned, that the governor can choose that where he can actually appoint a chief minister and to prove his vote. Like in that cases, like if a person who is actually not a member of the state legislature can also be appointed as a chief minister for 6 months, who is not a member, but still he can be appointed as a chief minister for 6 months. But with that time, he should be elected from the state legislature, whichever the constituency or anything. Or if he actually failed to see such kind of a thing, then he cannot be the chief minister again. I mean, he cannot continue as a chief minister. So he needs to prove his confidence, and he needs to be elected for the state legislature at the same time. And Well, as you can see, according to the constitution, what happens means the chief minister may be a member of any two houses of a state legislature, can be do, but usually what happens means the chief minister has to be selected from the lower house, like legislative assembly. But there are a number of occasions where a member of the upper house, that means legislative council, has also been appointed as a chief minister. So this is the second scenario. See, mostly he needs to be from the legislative assembly itself, but there are certain kind of situations where even from the legislative council, that a person as he was actually given the position as chief minister. So that is how the appointment of chief minister will actually be done. Now let's talk about the oath, term, and salary of the chief minister. So before entering into the office, the chief minister will actually have a oath of secrecy, which was made in the presence of governor. So at the time of oath and secrecy, these are the term, like these are the oaths that chief minister will swear to. So to bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India, and to uphold and sovereignty and integrity, to faithfully and consequently discharge his duties, and to do everything right for according to the people's will and for their favor and attention. So these are all the oath that he is to go. He actually does swore in the presence of governor. Well, whatsoever the chief minister swears that he will not directly or indirectly communicate to reveal to any persons, or whichever the matter that was brought to his consideration. And anyways, the term of the chief minister was never been fixed, but it doesn't mean that the governor can take him away whenever he wants, because until unless he enjoys the majority in his house, so there will be no chance for the governor to ask him to resign as well. But if he loses the confidence in his house, so the person has to resign. And if you talk about the salary and allowances will actually comes from the state legislature itself. And respect not only with this salary and allowances, he also gets sumptuary allowances, free accommodation, and traveling allowances, and even medical facilities. These are all be given for the chief minister. And the term, whereas I've given 5 years, because every 5 years we used to have an election. So far, it's been 5 years only. So that's why the term. Of course, it's not defined, but technically it will be 5 years. Now let's see what are the powers and functions of chief minister. Now, if we talk about the powers and functions of chief minister, where you can actually understand them under different kind of heads, in relation to the council of ministers, what will be the powers and functions, and in relation to the governor, and in relation to the state legislature, and certain kind of other powers and functions. Now, let's see under the first head, which is in relation of council of ministers. Well, whatever the powers that he enjoys under the state council of ministers was like the government appoints only those people as whoever recommended by the chief minister, because chief minister is exactly as similar to the prime minister. So um if you want me to tell you that whenever you're doing prime minister, they're mostly similar to the chief minister as well. And whenever you're doing the president, even the governor was actually as same. So this was the thing that I think I've mentioned you people before starting the parliament classes. So yes, as similar as the prime minister itself. So prime minister will actually gives his recommendation for the council of ministers, whereas the chief minister will also recommend the council of ministers. And the next power is he can actually allocate and reshuffles the portfolios among ministers whenever you want. So he can actually allocate and reshuffles portfolios. So the portfolios are nothing but which whoever the ministers or whoever the members to deal with what kind of a department and everything. So that kind of a portfolios whenever he can actually allocate, and he can actually shuffle among the ministers itself whenever he feels that there should be a need for change. And the next one will be like again he can actually ask a minister to resign, or he can actually um, advise the governor to make him to resign if there is any different opinion. So even for the resignation of council of ministers will also be done. Again, he can actually he has that power to preside over the meetings which were actually done, and even in the decisions of the council of ministers, not only the meetings, even in the decisions, again he can actually look after for that. And as usual, he can guides, controls, and coordinates all the activities of the ministers because he's been the head, so he can actually guides, controls, so whatever he wants to. And then finally, well, even if he can actually bring down the council of ministers by resigning from office, like he can actually bring down, because the chief minister is the head of the council of ministers. So whenever the chief minister resigns, the council of ministers will also get collapsed. So these are the powers or the functions which will be in relationship with the council of ministers will actually happens. And if you can see in the relation of the governor over here, so what happens means, well, as we all know that between the president, council of ministers, prime minister is the chief communication, like as a principal channel of communication. So whereas even here in this scenario, even the chief minister will acts as a principal communicator. So between the governor and council of ministers, even that was there. Like whatever the decisions that he needs to take, like if according to the administration affairs of states and proposals. So administration affairs about the states and every about the state, and is there any necessary for certain kind of proposals. So everything he's gonna take up to the governor from the council of ministers, and he can actually to furnish information like relating to administration of affairs, and if there is any government calls and everything, so he can actually furnish about that. And even the governor, see if the governor specifies whichever the submission of the consideration of the council of ministers affairs, what happens means a decision has been taken by a minister which is not considered, so he can look after for that as well. And not only that, the chief minister will actually advises the governor regarding to the appointment of important officials like advocate general of state. So advocate general, chairman and members of state public service commissions. So chairman and members of state public service commissions and state election commissioners and so on, and even the election commissioner as well. So these are the powers in the relation of the governor. Now let's see what are the functions, powers and functions in relation to the state legislature. Well, as you can see, the chief minister has the powers like where he can actually advise the governor with regarding, for the summoning and proroguing for the sessions of the state legislature. For the sessions whichever started of state legislature, and and the next one will be like he can also recommend the dissolution of the legislative assembly to the governor at any time. So he can actually asks for dissolution of legislative assembly at any time by recommending to the governor. He also announces any state policies in the government policies on the floor of house. So these are the major relations, major powers relating to the state legislature. Now, if you talk about the other powers and functions, now let's talk about other powers and functions. The chief minister not only performs rest of the functions or powers that we've seen so far. He has other powers and functions he can be the chairman. He can be the chairman for the state planning board. So whereas there is he can actually be the chairman. Not only for that, he can also act as a vice chairman of any concerned zonal council. So we see, vice chairman for zonal council. Well, whichever which was comes under by rotation or holding office for a period of 1 year. So it just comes only for 1 year. So as you all can remember, the zonal councils will actually be divided between different zones, and it will comes on the rotational shift. Sorry, rotations according to the vice chairmans of the state CMs, and he also be a member of the Interstate Council and National Development Council. He can also be the chairman of. He'll also be a member of Interstate Council and National Development Council, which was actually headed by Prime Minister. So these both things were actually headed by Prime Minister. So that's why he can be actually a member of those. Not only that, he can be the chief spokesperson of the state government, and he is actually the crisis manager in chief at any political level whenever there is emergencies. So he's not only the chief spokesperson. Well, not only that, as a leader of the state, he actually meets with various sections of the people and receive, certain kind of memoranda from them regarding their problems. And he can also be the political head of the services. So that's how he actually plays a very significant and highly crucial role in the state administration. But whatsoever the discretionary powers enjoyed by the governors reduce some extent of his power, because governor has certain kind of discretionary powers comparing to the where he can actually have the power, authority and influence. So that is the only matter. But as if as a role and prestige of a chief minister in the state administration, he has a very good role. So these are the powers and functions of a chief minister according to his constitutional provisions and the way that he needs to administer the state administration. And now, the relationship with governor, as you can see that I've given where the constitutional deals with, like under article 163, there will be a council of ministers with the CM to aid and advise the governor. So that kind of provision or the privilege comes under article 163. And when it comes to the article 164, where he can actually be appointed by the governor, and holding of office and council of ministers collective responsibility, everything will comes under article 164. And if you talk about article 167, where it is the duties of CM, where chief minister, which actually comes to communicate to the governor of the state, furnish information relating. See, whatsoever, as I've mentioned, the powers in relation with the governor. So all these things will actually come, but here I've given under the articles itself. So if the governor is so requires to submit for the consideration of council of ministers. So these are all comes under article 164. So these are the articles that comes with the relation of governor with the chief minister. So that is about the chief minister and entire powers, oath, and everything. Now let's talk about the State Council of Ministers. Now, if we talk about the constitutional provisions which was given in respect of Council of Ministers, like State Council of Ministers, as you can see, these are the articles. But there was no definite mention of these kind of provisions, like which are not detailed in nature in Constitution. But as you can see, according to this State Council of Ministers, Article 163 and 164 has a broader sense, because this 163 will actually deals with the status of Council of Ministers, while 164 deals with the appointment, tenure, and qualifications, oath, and salaries, along with the allowances of the Council of Ministers.